Creating live broadcast. You can view live comments here. Oh, no, I can't once it goes live, right?
Yeah.
But
I think you're live, Judy.
we are. Okay. So once again,
Yeah.
I can't see anybody who's online. I can't see comments. I can't see questions. I'm going to leave it all up to you.
Absolutely. So it's just you and I now, nobody else. So we just went on a bit early just to give people a few, maybe 1 or 2 minutes to kind of catch on with us. And we thought just like kind of hang out and chat a bit before people join us. So
well, you have to do that because then I would just be talking to you, and that wouldn't be fun. It is fun, but it wouldn't be as fun.
Yeah, no, people are going to join us. So just give them maybe a minute or two to join us, and then we're going to get started because I want them to not miss the first part of the conversation.
No,
and then they can.
First part of
that's
the conversation is the most important part. You know, the
exactly.
first part of working with your horse or you know, approaching and just looking at your horse before you go get them is the most important thing. It's always that first thing that's the most important to me anyway. I'm a starter. I've got the starter thing. Well, actually, I'm a starter, middle, and an end picture, but I do love to start. That's for sure. That's kind of my specialty.
I remember the very first lesson you gave me was to go catch your horse in the pasture. I never forget that because well, I had a couple of training sessions with people before, but nobody taught me that. And I was like, what is this? Like, and then I realized afterwards how important that is. I guess more people are joining us, so let's just get started, and then people can kind of join us along the way. Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing well.
I have to remember not to put my hands by the camera because I was looking at the repeat just to see, you know, about sound, and my big hands kept coming up to the camera. So I got sitting on my hands as of now.
That's absolutely fine. So hi, everybody. I hope you're doing well. So this is the very first episode of what we call Chats with Judy. Hopefully we're going to have more of these. We asked Judy to give us 30 minutes of her time to talk horses, and she allowed me to pick a topic. And one of the things that is very important, and I thought would be probably very good to just talk about the first time we're doing this, is time. So we're going to chat about that. We would love to hear from you guys. If you're online, just say hi. Don't be shy. Just say hi. Give us, like, I don't know, an emoji, a kiss emoji if you want, a heart emoji. That's going to encourage us quite a bit because we're doing this for you guys. We want to make sure that you're with us. Kathy's here. Thanks, Kathy, for being with us. And just type down your questions and comments. And then I'm going to go through a few questions. I'm going to ask Judy a few questions, but then I will plug your questions in and we get Judy to talk about those. So as I said, time is very, very interesting because we look at time a lot different than horses. One post that you put on the Facebook page was undemanding time recently. Even though I think most people who have been following you, they all know kind of what you're talking about. I was hoping if you can just give us a bit more information and elaborate a bit more about what do you exactly mean by undemanding
time? You know, we think sometimes we are spending time with our horse and not asking them of anything, and we are. It's not really undemanding time, and I think people know that I watch and have learned and studied herd behavior, and I always go back to that for the reason, and then I can round it out, or I can you know, flex it a little bit depending on the world we live in. But, you know, when we look, if we were to spend, you know, a week, a day, a month, or whatever time you could, and just watch a herd of horses, you would probably find, and I'm generalizing here, that horses really, they push each other around. There's no doubt that they do that. They, you know, the leader pushes them away from the best grass, or they play tag a little bit and push each other and around space, claim space and clear space and share space. But if you had the clock on them, you would probably find they'd only would be doing that for about 15 or 20 minutes all totaled in one day. And yet we come up or come out, depending on where you keep your horses, and we're on a timeline, most cases, and we push them for an
Mm.
hour, sometimes more. And when I say push, it doesn't mean riding hard. It doesn't mean asking for a lot. It means asking anything.
Mm.
So when I talk about undemanding time, there's lots of undemanding time when you're grooming and so on, as long as you don't have to keep correcting your horse for leaning into you, or asking your horse to go here or go there, or I want you to turn around, or that's undemanding time. But to me, pure undemanding time, oh, there's my hands again. Pure undemanding time is honestly just sitting with your horse. You
Mm.
know, what they do together for 24 hours a day is they're grazing and they're with each other. And that's how they have such a strong bond to each other. So it behooves me to say, well, then why don't I do that? So the best kind of undemanding time, in my opinion, is just sitting with your horse, not asking anything of them. You don't have to actually eat the grass. You can certainly sit in the area while they're doing it and just watch and breathe. So that's what I call
Mm.
undemanding time. And it really it's interest in the bank of rapport, the bank of bonding. The more you do this with your horse, the more the trust bond becomes more and more ingrained with your horse, because he feels like you're in a herd of two.
Interesting. So is it better, when you were talking about that, so is it better to set yourself up for success? And so, for example, if I'm with my horse and he's leaning on me, because we teach them something one way or another,
Mhm.
is it not better to just hang out with them in such a way that you do not have to correct them? So, you know what I mean?
No, I do, and I thank you for that, because that's exactly what I mean. If you set yourself up for success and be in a position where you're sitting far enough away from them that they're not going to step on you, if that's something that
Hmm.
you're concerned with, you can't help but not ask anything, but you're
Hmm.
still there. You're still there with them, and they absolutely know that you are. But undemanding time of grooming and just going for a walk with your horse, those are all okay. You just have to be careful about who's playing what game. This is not about playing with your horse or setting up puzzles. This is just about being, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely does. So,
Very important
hi
time.
everybody. Absolutely. Sorry, I get excited when I see people. Hi, Amanda. Hi, Melina, Sharon, Kathy. You guys are great. Thanks for joining us. And thanks for just saying hi. We appreciate that. If you guys have any questions about on-demanding time, I'm going to move on to the next one. Oh, if you guys have any questions right now about on-demanding time, put it in the comment. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next. We're going to give people maybe a few seconds, but then if you have a question, put it in, and then I'll just find time to plug it in.
Mm.
Okay? So, that's let me just cross that in my list. One of the other things that I wanted to ask you was, so when I was playing the journey, I would just come up one time on the weekend and another time during the week. But during the week, I would just, by the time I made it there, it was like later in the day. So is there any significance in terms of what time of the day I'm spending time with my horse? Is there anything to that whole concept?
Yeah, and this is our night to talk about time, and there is really the times with horses are more the
Mm.
rhythms. They're not. I mean, they don't look at their watches, but the things that you need to be aware of if you're with your horse or riding your horse or going to play with your horse or taking your horse out. I mean, we only have a certain amount of time that we can go to our horses, but
Mm.
we have to realize, I think, that there are a few times where other things are happening and are sometimes much more important. So therefore, you have to change your leadership style. For instance, um, the evening.
Mhm.
Horses herd up in the evening, especially horses that obviously they're kept out 24/7. So as soon as the dusk time comes, and that of course changes during the year, horses herd up. They want to know, in our own, I guess, in our own human terms, where everybody is, how everybody's settling for the night. We're herding up together. Part of that is protection. Part of that is comfort. And so if we have an evening appointment with our horse, we have to understand that they might be a little bit more anxious about what the conversation you're having with them, because their thoughts are kind of over there. It might mean that your leadership style has to change a little bit, that you might have to be a little bit more of a stronger leader to say, you know what, you're okay with me. I'm going to give you back to your herd, but right now we are together, and that's okay. So all of that is learning and knowledge. I'm not saying that that happens naturally. We have to learn how to do that. But in terms of time, of the time for horses and you being with them, that's something that you have to be aware of. Something more obvious is feeding time. I think most people have experience and sometimes say, well, I'm not getting my horse right now because it's feeding time. Feed and freedom and being with their herd are all times that really produces the thought of I'd rather be there than here, honestly, because that's who they spend their time with. I'm not saying you not to ride in the evening and not to ride when it's feeding time. We just have to be aware that our leadership style has to be much stronger in some instances, or it just change it up a little bit. It's the same with coming in. If someone at the barn brings the horses in at certain times, those are times that can be quite rambunctious. And your horse is either thinking about being fed then, or just coming in and, or other horses are moving around them. The herd is getting displaced. It's going here and there. So again, that ability to focus on you is not going to be as pure as it would if you were at another time of the day. Should you change that? You can't change your own timetable. You just have to be aware of that. I mean, I'm very lucky because I have my own horses, and we tend to feed about the same time, but not exactly the same time. And that way our horses are not as anxious on those times of the day. And therefore we can go and play with them or ride with them at any time. But it's just an awareness of of understanding how your horse thinks about the time of day, just like the undemanding time. So time is huge with horses, but not in the same way as it is for us.
Exactly. And so you kind of answered my question, but would it be because I think about when I started playing the journey, I remember how challenging it was when I was up there at the dusk because my leadership wasn't there, and then he wanted to stay with the herd. So maybe would you recommend that, knowing that, do it in such a way that I do not put if I'm a beginner, I don't put myself in that position. You know what I mean?
If
Is
No,
okay?
that's absolutely. I think just with talking about this tonight, if we have any beginners listening, then you already know this. Already know that. Hey, I didn't think of that. That's why. I mean, it's the same as if a storm is coming. Horses have a sense of all of this, and not that they're afraid of storms like some of us are. They want to just get back to their herd, where it's safe, or where they can crowd around each other for safety. If you're a real beginner, and if you can and able on your timetable, I would try it at a time that was less, there was less anxiety or emotion going on in your horses about being unfocused. And then as your knowledge progresses and you get better and better at, then it shouldn't matter. Then I want you to take the time of feeding. Do it that way. Go when your knowledge is to a point where you start to get more and more, then by golly, go and take your horse out with feeding time. Don't let the environment control your partnership. It gets better and better, and it doesn't matter what's going on around you. That partnership will hold true depending on how strong or how much knowledge you have and how much you practice, and the bond between the two of you.
Exactly. I think.
Good point, though.
Thanks. I think it's the awareness. I'm gonna read to you something. You can't see the comments, but I wanna. So Kathy said the first time ever Splash had an evening appointment with her farrier. She usually is falling asleep. Her evening appointment was not a pleasant evening for her or me, as she was looking to be with her herd. So that's another thing. I mean, if you're setting,
Perfect example. Who's that from?
That's Kathy.
Kathy. Yeah. That's a perfect example of of what we just talked about. Can you control your farrier and what time? Not well, you can maybe a little bit, but you don't want to avoid. You want to flex a little bit depending on your amount of knowledge that you have. But once you're there, ask your farrier to come at midnight or something. I don't know, right before the storm. Get over here and do my horses. Because it shouldn't matter. It's not about the feeding time. It's not about herding up. It's not about the storm coming. It's about how you and your horse handle that together. So don't avoid it, but at the same time, don't go head first into it to set it up for success if the knowledge isn't there yet.
Correct.
Right?
I think yeah, exactly. The awareness of it is important because, again, when I started, I had no idea. I did notice that he's more herd bound in the evening, but I didn't know. So if you have that knowledge, or when you have that knowledge, you can strategize and plan around it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good.
Great. Thanks, Kathy. If you guys have more comments, if you have more experiences that has to do with playing with your horse in a specific time of the day, please let us know. And I'm gonna give you guys maybe 10 seconds to give us more questions. If not, I'm going to move on. But again, we have to have drum roll. But if you have, please post them, then I will share them, just like
Did you
Kathy. Okay, so
all night thinking of these time questions or something? I knew you were going to talk about time, but this is crazy. This is good though. This is really good.
I never stopped thinking, quite frankly, and that's part of the problem. But no, this because time. You see, we talk a lot of things. Us and prey animals, for example, body language. You can understand and mimic the body language, do it, but time is such a concept that it's very it's strange. It's so different between us and them that it's fascinating to me. And then, like, for example, for me, because I don't have a lot of time, it's just, again, it was one of those things that I always wanted to ask you, and I'm glad came up. Here we go. Next one. That's actually that was one of my challenges to begin with. Most of these are. So in terms of my session with,
that's where the best knowledge comes from, and the best answers is when you have a problem.
Exactly.
Right? That's where we search for answers.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So in terms of dividing up my session time with my horse, that's one of the things that you see when you start, you don't realize that, but after a while you get to understand how you need to kind of plan your session time. Can you give us can you help us understand that? And if you have any suggestions in terms of how we can do that, that would be great.
Yeah, this is a huge topic, and we could probably have one whole session on this, but it would be lovely to have feedback from people, because I know just from myself, and I have done this, I have to say, we're all not, including me, but I really try. For me, it's not about the length of time that I'm with my horse. And I'm not talking about undemanding time. I'm talking about I'm going out to do something. It's not so much the time. The time doesn't matter. It's the plan that matters. So for instance, if I don't have a plan, then what's going to stop me from doing too much, going way over the board with my horse and getting him emotional, or, right now he's not relaxed, not learning. I might not do enough.
Okay.
I might just kind of piddle around and do nothing, and I might not have accomplished anything. So again, we're talking about something different than undemanding time. If you're wanting undemanding time with your horse, go for it. If you're wanting to be with your horse, I really think that unless you have a plan, it has to be a flexible plan, because sometimes the horse that shows up isn't going to suit what you had planned. I actually write it down on paper occasionally, because I have this I divide my session, no matter how much time I have. If I have 20 minutes, half an hour, or an hour, and I divide it into a warm-up, and then a theme, and then a cool down. Now, most of you will look at that and say, well, that makes sense. Warm up, you warm up, and a cool down. I want you to think more about the mind. So what I like to do is I like to warm up my horse's mind. I understand that there's certain kinetic things, properties you have to warm up the body. It depends on what the session's about. If I were riding or in my theme, I was going to be doing some lateral work, of course I would have in my mind that I would warm up my horse's body physically. But do we really think about warming up their mind? Because I don't care where my horse's feet are if I don't have a mind that's connected to them. So okay, so just in general, I'm kind of getting off topic here. I kind of use a 2-1-2 ratio in time. So if I had half an hour to be with my horse, watch my math here, I would do 20, 20, and 10 in the middle.
Oh, 20, 20.
So 20 minutes.
10 in the middle.
So
Okay,
20 in the
interesting.
warm-up. Yeah, this is going to surprise some people. 20 in the warm-up, 10 in the theme or the learning part, and 20 in the cool down.
Okay.
But what I define those three parts of are maybe totally different than what some of you might be thinking. So again, starting at the warm-up, the 20 minutes, I would be looking for my horse to be calm and connected to me. I would look at doing, him responding to what I'm asking him to do. And in doing that, I would ask him things that I know that he knows, that he's comfortable with, that he's shown me 99% of the time, that he has no trouble answering my question at the lightest, hopefully at the lightest level. I would want that because that to me tells me my horse is ready to learn. Warming up their body, but not finding relaxation. And yes, you can see that the bodies aren't relaxed. I want the mind relaxed as well. I want both. I want everything. But anyway, so I would focus more on their mind than their body, but the body's important. Then, and only then, would I move in to the second stage, which is the 10 minutes. And again, we're basing this on a 30-minute time with your horse. That 10 minutes would be the theme or the learning, because that's hard for horses. If you've seen and played with horses before and are teaching them something, that's hard for them. Their mind is working all the time. Think of the last clinic you went to and you had to listen to someone and learn and so on and so forth for, an hour or two, and then you get glazed eyes. Horses, it takes a much smaller time for them to be saturated with new information. So that's why I keep that short.
Okay.
And then, if that makes sense, and I'm hurry this along a little bit. And then the last 30 minutes is what I consider the warm down. And again, that's not just traditionally walking my horse around so he stops sweating, or, he can get his breathing back. To me, a cool down means I'm cooling down his mind. I'm allowing him to lick and chew on that, to understand what we've just done. And that's where undemanding time or semi-undemanding time comes in. So I want to make it very clear to my horse that I want your mind, be calm, connected, and responsive. Here's my educational bit, and I better know the answers to what I'm teaching. So that's where you have to plan this out. So at the beginning, doing things that he already knows how to do, and he does them comfortably, and you're checking what side of the pasture did he wake up on. The middle part is the educational component, short and sweet, get off it, find a good place to end, and then end it. And then the cool down is all about just cooling down the mind and allowing him time to understand what just happened. And it might be just hanging around. It might be going for a walk. It might be taking him with a line and letting him graze somewhere. It depends. Again, I'm not thinking about the physical body, because if you've really played hard in that educational part and your horse is, it got some his cardio up and so on and so forth, of course you're gonna have to warm the body down, cool the body down as well. But I want you to think more about the mind in those two components as well.
Okay.
So I hope that.
Oh, it did make sense. I just took a look at the clock, and we only have 5 more minutes, and that's amazing, because I don't know how this where it went. But I have some questions about this. I have more questions, but this is very important. So in the warm up, you said warm up their mind. And we're supposed to work on stuff they know. Would you pick things in the warm-up that are related to the theme, but they know.
Oh,
So you kind of prepare.
woohoo! You're very good. You know, I think that would be on the list of my plan.
Okay.
Especially again, if I were doing some lateral riding work, for instance, I would want to warm them up with some circles and bending and sideways and get those ribs moving and all that physical part, but not until I was sure that they were calm and that they were connected to me. And what I mean by responsive means that if I'm asking, I can ask at the very lightest level and they know what I'm talking about. If I have to go to a level 4 of clarity all the time, my horse is not ready to learn. He's either like being a little dominant and like, I don't want to learn today, or maybe a little fearful, but whatever it is, his mind is not focused. And unless that happens, I'll just clear right out of that theme area. I won't even do that for the
Oh,
day.
okay.
I'm not, I'll just leave it at the warm up and find a good spot to end on that. And then that's it for today. Today's not the day for learning, because there's no sense pushing your horse through learning when they're not in a learning frame of mind.
Interesting. Okay, so we have. I'm just going to stick to this if you don't mind, because I don't know if you guys have. What's
Is
that?
there anybody have a
So
question? No questions?
not like no question. Hi, Teresa. Teresa said hi. No, they're not. They're shy. I don't know. You guys.
Either that,
I'm assuming you guys have questions.
we're doing a real darn good job talking about it. For sure
I
not.
mean, either way, I would love to have some questions, even comments. It doesn't have to be questions. No, no, like we don't have any questions so far.
Well, just remember the session time. Again, think about it. I mean, of course, everybody can do what they want to do, but I have found much success with 2-1-2, whatever that ratio is and the time that you have, and make sure you're understanding. And if you're not, you can find out. There's lots of information on this from our courses and from me personally about, what does calm, connected, responsive mean? What does that actually mean? It has nothing to do with how well they're moving. Okay? Okay.
Okay. And 2-1-2. So I guess what you mean is if the session is 30 minutes, there's like 3 sections, and then 2-1-2 is like 20, 10, 20. That's what you mean, right?
Warm up.
Yeah.
Theme, cool down. So 2-1-2. However that mathematically divides into whatever time you're doing. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't ask me to do math anymore for an hour.
No, I won't.
Make a plan, everybody. Make a plan, or you'll go in and you'll either do too much, or you won't do enough, or you'll get this real sense of, well, where did that time go? Well, you might as well have spent it just on a warm up then. Okay, so okay. No questions? Is that it? Finished, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, no questions. But don't worry, I have so many questions for you. I'm just going to use this time to ask all my questions. Don't worry. Okay, so this is a big one too, but maybe we can touch on it and pick it up later. I've heard you teaching me, and I've heard you talking, and I have you teach me about timing of my release. Again, I think we all know what you mean by that, but it would be great if you can kind of give us a bit more information about what exactly do you mean by timing of my release.
And I mean that. First of all, we all know that horses, because they're a prey animal, work on a pressure and release system. Mother Nature puts pressure on them. The other horses in the herd put pressure on them. We put pressure on them. Their own, changes of routines put pressure on them. So horses always have pressure, unless it's totally undemanding time. We talked about that on the very first time thing. So I don't want to talk so much about the pressure and release, only that the pressure that you put on horses, and it can be I'm not talking about, hard pressure. I'm talking about just looking at them with 2 eyes can be pressure for some horses. But that causes the horse to start to find the answer. They want to get out of that pressure feeling, and so they're searching to how to relieve that pressure. I mean, if we're lucky enough as humans, we know how to release our pressure. We, have a cup of tea. We go and meditate. We do a lot of things to release pressure, but horses just want to find the release, and they don't necessarily know what the answer is at the beginning. The only way they can feel that pressure come off is when you take it off. And this is when we're teaching, right? This is directly horse and human. So we know that the pressure causes the horse to do something, to find the answers, to start to, is it this, is I don't know what, and the only thing that will tell them when they're in the right direction is when we take that pressure off. And it could mean everything from taking your eyes off your horse to using your body to say, I'm good, are you good, and taking that pressure up. That's a skill, and it's a knowledge, and it's practice. But what I think is more important to leave everybody with today is the quicker you do that release, whatever that is taking your eyes off or releasing the pressure from your body or whatever it is for your horse and your training level, the quicker you do that, the learning is faster with horses. That's just how they learn. So if you can release of the thought, even when you think he's going to go and do the right thing and release from it, you're not going to teach him not to do it unless you do that over and over again. I'd rather see students, and students know that I've said to them, I'd rather see you make the error and release on the wrong time than not release fast enough. And again, I have to qualify that because you can't keep releasing on the wrong time all sorts of times, because then you'll teach them something else. So that's a whole other time thing. And then here's the kicker. As you progress, and I'm always this big person about progression with you and your horse, to progress with that release, you want to make sure that the release, the length of the release, so the length of you going to relaxation equals the try. So you want to continually release on the better try, and then another way of progressing is to not leave so much time between the release and when you start to ask again. At the beginning, you want to leave lots of time between the release and when you ask again. But then as you progress through it, if you keep staying with the same length of release, you're never going to get a better try. So it's kind of like that. I'm humanizing this. Show me a better try and you get more release. Okay? You can find that balance of pleasure and relaxation. So again, we're not talking about putting terrible pressure on horses, because everything is pressure. So the lightest pressure is still pressure, if that makes sense. It's a topic that needs more than 5 minutes, but I'm glad that you asked that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm desperate to ask you more questions, and hopefully
ask them if it makes sense.
Yeah, and I'm going to read some of the comments to you before we're like 2 minutes over.
Yeah, I know.
But I have like three, four more questions, and I think some of these we can just, if I can convince you to come back and talk about some of these more, I think I'm going to be happy, and everybody else is going to be happy. A couple of comments I'm going to read to you. Amanda says, "You guys are doing a great job. Us introverts are just thinking." LOL. And Amanda, I don't think take Amanda for an introvert, but anyways,
no. People run this world as introverts and extroverts. They're all equal. But I want to just throw in one quick one, because I know you didn't ask this, but you got me thinking about time. And time in our life that we have horses is I think something that we really need to think about as well. Do you know the mean age of people getting back into horses now is approximately somewhere between 45 and 55 years old. And it's because we can free up income. Our families are grown and they're off doing their own thing for the most part. Again, I'm generalizing, but it frees up time and finances so that we can enjoy maybe a love that we've had from a very long time and never been able to activate it. And it's time for us. But with that brings some responsibilities on our part. And this is why I am mentioning this, because I've seen more horses sent down the road to another owner, because when we get older, we have to be careful of the partner that we choose. And again, I'm generalizing here, so don't yell at me, because I'm 65 and I'm able to do endurance riding. That's absolutely, and good on you. But generally speaking, for most people who enjoy horses, just we don't necessarily have a goal of being a top-notch competitor. We have to understand that we have to keep fit. there are things about horses, just by the sense of who they are and what they are, we can get hurt. And not because they are trying to, it's just they're large animals. So, there's something that we my chiropractor said this to me many times, the proprioceptors that are within our body. And what they do is continually giving us feedback of where our limbs are and how we manipulate the terrain of just walking around. As we get older, those things start to get less and less. And unless we find a way to keep them up, and you can increase your response time, micromanaging like your joint. You can do that to a certain point, but there's always going to be, as the years go by, things that are going to affect your strength, your balance, your core. All of these are so important when you're riding, or on even, particularly riding. So I guess my message was, keep fit, everybody, as fit as you can. Find a program that helps your mind and helps your body, because you'll be better with your horse for everything because of that. And the nice thing about the program, natural horsemanship program, is if and when there's a time, and God, I hope that this never comes to anybody, including me, that I no longer have the balance and maybe the core to ride, I can always play with my horse on the ground. Liberty, love liberty, all the line stuff, driving, all of those things. You can enjoy your horse when your physical body starts to, get a little bit mature, let's just say. So time of your life is important, and I just want to leave you that message, because I know that a lot of my students are in that age group, and I have to be realistic with them. They might want to do things that they're not quite ready for physically, and I need to say, you know what, we can do this. Let's just get whatever it might be. So that discussion come up many times. So that's all I want to say. Time.
Awesome.
Time is up.
That's great. Time is up. Time is actually up. There's one more comment from Judy, and I'm going to read that to everybody, and then we're going to say goodbye. Julie says, surrounding the talk on feeding time, I found what works best for the horses at our farm is to have the feed prepped and waiting for them in their stalls at turn in time. Way less anticipation and anxiety for horses. And also, Julie says, we all worry about making mistakes with our horses, but it's important to remember, if you learn something in the process, it wasn't a mistake. Very true. The mindset is key to making progress. And when I make mistakes, I always remind myself of this.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's awesome. This is great stuff. Thank you guys so much. Another thing I wanted to mention.
No, sorry, go ahead. Nothing.
So we did this at 7:30. I just thought about it. If you guys want to do it like at 8, maybe, if it works better, let us know. Any topics that you guys want us to discuss later, please put them in the comments. The video will be on the group, so you can go back and listen to it. I know I will. I want to thank everybody who joined us today. Thank you so much, Judy, for giving us your time. I never get tired of talking time. See, I never get tired of talking to you. And it's always to listen. It's always great to listen to you. And I hope everybody else enjoyed. Please keep your questions, comments, anything coming. We love to have you guys with us. We'd love to share this with you, and hopefully we get more chances to share this information with you. So to just make your life and your horse's life better. Thanks, Melina. Thanks, Sharon. Everybody who is just giving us comments. Have a great night.
We have some exciting things coming up. Really exciting. Here's a flash. That's all you get.
Oh, okay.
But we're excited to share, some of what. Well, I won't say anymore. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for sharing your time with us on the topic of Shahab's topic on time. And we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. Help me out with topics. I know I have a whole bunch of them, but I would love to hear from you. So take care. Have a great